Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed the holidays. I'm your host Will Broccoli, but you can call me whatever you want really. 2024 just kicked off and you're hoping that a new year means a new you. Me too. So of course I made some New Year's resolutions again. However, this year I did something a little different. I made small, precise, yet attainable goals versus the broader, more generic ones that I usually do. So for example, instead of saying I'm going to get fit or I'm just going to lose weight, I wanted to be more specific, like saying I'm going to work out 3 times a week, or for example saying I'm going to lose 1 pound a month. Because let's face it, losing weight or getting fit is a huge spectrum. That could either mean you slim down a couple pounds, lose a couple body fat percentages, or you could be talking about getting as shredded as Brad Pitt. But if you give yourself such a big goal, it almost seems unattainable and you give up halfway through it. So if you narrow it down to something smaller, say those 1 to 2 pounds a month, then you have a goal that you can actually reach for and consistently hit, and that'll give you more motivation to continue to hit those goals. Okay, so imagine that you're here because you're looking for ideas or examples. So without further ado, here's my 10 New Year's resolutions. Number 1, pursuing a hobby once a week. I think we can all think of a time when we were less busy and actually had hobbies. For me, that was a little bit over a decade ago when I was still in high school. I enjoyed sports and music, but ever since I graduated, I haven't really had time for any of that stuff. At least that's what I tell myself. I came upon a quote recently that I really like, and it's not that we don't have time for things, is that we don't make them a priority. Now, while there's only a finite amount of time in a day, so you can't do everything, what you do get done, it's because it was a priority. I mean, think about it. You went to work because it was really important. You took a bath because it was really important. You didn't do all the things that you didn't find as important. Now, there might have been a lot of things that you would have liked to have done or wished that you had more time to do. But at the end of the day, if they were really, really important, you would have done those things. I'm sure many of us can sum up the hours in a week that we spent either watching TV, scrolling through memes, going to get drinks after work, or just lounging around doing nothing, right? I'm pretty sure we can easily come up with a spare 8 hours that we could have spent completely different. So I've decided that at least once a week, I'm going to carve out time for me to focus on my hobby, which is this YouTube thing. And for me personally, it just kills 2 birds with 1 stone. I've always wanted to get into video editing and video making, and so this is a great way to practice those skills, but also it's a great way for me to get back into being more fit and more active with my life. Number 2, eating more veggies. So I think the average person can probably do better about eating vegetables. I'm a bit bad at it, not because I don't like vegetables, but just because I don't like having a lot of sides with my food. Like usually I do my protein and one side, and most of the times that's a carb. So I gotta do better about getting more vegetables in. And the solution for me is to go vegetarian like 2 to 3 days a week. That way the vegetable is the main course and I'm for sure getting those vegetables in. And many people go vegetarian for a lot of reasons, but I think that even if you're not interested in those other reasons, having a day or 2 in the week where you strictly just eat vegetables is a great way to make sure that you are getting all those nutrients that we should be getting from a diverse diet. And hey, I can learn some new recipes and new cooking skills and probably learn new facts about food. So number 3 is working on flexibility. I think most of us are not as flexible as we should be. Me personally, I've suffered lower back injuries and shin injuries from doing things such as running and weightlifting. And I was told by my orthopedic and a chiropractor that it was in fact because I was not flexible enough. I have really bad hip mobility, specifically interiorly. Like what allows you to sit crisscross applesauce or do like a butterfly stretch. I have really bad mobility like that. So basically if your muscles are too tight, they're putting strain on your skeletal system, and that in turn makes you vulnerable to injuries if you're putting stress on it by working out or carrying something heavy. So you could have good form, but your body's just not right, and so you damage it. And so the fix is to work on stretching or being more flexible. So for me personally, I'm going to start my days in the morning with 15 minutes of static stretching, nothing out of the ordinary, just to get my muscles warmed up, get everything, agile. And over time, I should see a progression of when I wake up, I should just naturally be a little bit more nimble, but also I should be able to stretch further and further and further. And of course, for me personally, I'm going to focus on those exercises that are more geared towards hip mobility, but I'm also not going to neglect the other ones. Now, with that said, many people know that static stretching before an exercise is bad. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work instead for an extra 15 minutes during my workout, just at the very end or at the very beginning. I still haven't really decided, but I am going to focus on more dynamic stretching, functional stretching, whatever you want to call it. And again, I don't think that it should take that much time. And from what I've heard from just watching a lot of videos, to be honest, on people that got flexible late in their life, it didn't take necessarily long sessions. It just took consistency. And guys, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, this doesn't apply to me, I'm plenty flexible, there's a good chance that you're not as flexible as you think. And there's many good videos that you can search here on YouTube on mobility test and see just where you fall. Because I'm pretty sure you're gonna think, oh, I have no issues, I'm as flexible as I need to be, but you're below average. And I knew that I had a problem with my hips, but I thought upper body, shoulder mobility, I was fine. I've never had any issues while exercising or playing sports, but I also have really bad shoulder mobility, and I honestly would not have considered myself as one of those people that had low or below average mobility. But it's just one of those things that as you get older, especially here in the States, might be different in other countries, but we kind of have a very sedentary lifestyle, even if you have a laborious job like construction. I've worked construction many years, and yes, you're active, but you're not moving in a dynamic way, the way that we perhaps would have if we lived many years ago, where we had to do various things, walking great distances, traversing different landscapes. I mean, we just don't live like that anymore. And so naturally, as we get older and we stop playing and running and jumping off monkey bars and things like that, we just lose mobility unless we work on it. Just give it a try, do those tests, see how mobile you are, and if you're below average, then make that a goal for this year to work on. Okay, so number 4 is gonna be investing. Now, the average American doesn't even have $1,000 saved up, much less enough money to cover expenses for a whole month should they lose their job and not be able to find work soon. Now, that's pretty scary, and personally, I've gone through something like that before, and luckily I did have savings saved up and I was okay. But even with my savings, I was really scared on what happened when I ran out. And honestly, I was so happy that I did have money saved up. So guys, please don't be part of that statistic. It really does not take much. Just $25 to $50 a week that you set aside will get you somewhere between $1,300 and $2,600 a year. Now, while that might not be enough to cover a whole month's expense for you now, hopefully you don't have to go through that this year. But if you do that consistently year after year, and as you're able to increase those amounts, then by the time that unfortunately happens at some point for whatever reason, or you have a surprise medical expense, you can at least count on a few $1,000s to get you by. Now, me personally, as a tax accountant by trade, I try to stay away from savings accounts. I think they're okay to put money in that you're planning on using sometime relatively soon. But ideally, if you want to hold on to that money for over a year, I would consider investing. And there's plenty of great channels here on YouTube. I watch them even though I'm an accountant, and I learned new things, great things, or just learn new ideas. And with that said, being an accountant is different than being a finance advisor or having a finance degree for that matter. But the gist is that due to inflation, If you have your money parked in a savings account, you will lose value every year. Ideally, you want to aim for getting at least a 3% or higher of a return on your money. And the average bank account offers less than 1%. So not great. And me personally, I chose to invest into dividend stocks. You can get into that this year. You can learn all about trading and how dividends work and how stocks work. And that would be a great learning opportunity for you. But in short, basically, you buy a stock of a company. They pay you a small percentage as a thank you for buying into that company. You're not locked in. You can trade it. You can sell it whenever you want. So what I do is I put my money into that. And should I need it, then I can then sell those stocks. And not only did I get back the value from those stocks from when they sold, but I also had accumulated those dividends that they paid me out, that 3%, 5%, 10%. There's many strategies to investing, and this isn't a finance channel, but I do encourage you to look into it. And personally for me this year, since I already invest into dividend stocks and have a small emergency fund saved up, I had a son last year. And one day he's going to go to college, so I opened up a 529 plan to help pay for his college. And there's great tax benefits to that, but also just the idea of now saving a little at a time for his college so that later on, when it comes time to it, I'm not scrambling to come up with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to help cover his tuition. I mean, hopefully, straight A student, scholarship, full ride, but I can do this for him now, then it would be just a huge blessing down the road. So guys, I would just consider taking some time this year to learn about your finances, about investing, get yourself in a situation where should something happen, should something go completely awry in your life, you will be okay, at least for a short amount of time. So number 5 is learning a new language. So much like my hobbies, I just never really made it a priority to learn a new language. I have literally had this book for about 5 years, and I think I've only worked like maybe twice in it. It's a Japanese learning book, and it's a really great book from the little bit that I did use it. But again, I just didn't set aside that time and respected that time to actually dedicate to learning. Now, there's a lot of different methodologies to learning a language, but personally, I learned a great deal of Italian. I'm not 100% fluent because I don't get to really speak it with anybody. So the best that I do is like I watch movies and listen to music whenever I can in Italian. I could pretty much hold a conversation and understand a great deal of whatever's being said. So I don't feel like a fish out of water, but for me, what worked best was just dedicating at least 2 hours a week to it. I found like that was a sweet spot. If I did more, I just got burnt out and I would quit. And that took me years to learn. And it wasn't until like the last 2 years that I was technically spending time on learning that I picked up what really stuck, which is what I still carry with me today. And again, it was just the consistency. Like I did either little 30-minute sessions, or if I fell behind, I would just do an hour for 2 days a week. And that's what stuck for me. It fit my schedule. It made it to where it was fun. Like I didn't feel burnt out. And then the rest was just trying to be immersed in the language. And I think that's a great strategy. I'm also a native Spanish speaker. And when I have given advice to either people trying to learn Spanish or Spanish people trying to learn English, I give them that same advice, and they said it worked really, really well for them. It made it fun. Again, they didn't feel burnt out. So that's just some advice. But you know, whatever works for you, I would just say set aside that time, just like the hobbies. But this will be the year that I learn some Japanese. And even if I just do that for this year, I'm sure, like my Italian, I'll learn things that will stay with me for a very long time, so that at the bare minimum, if I happen to wake up in Japan with no memory of how I got there, I can get help or get somewhere safe. So just, you know, keep that in mind. But I think it's a great goal. I think most people wish they spoke at least another language, and this is coming from someone who knows people that already speak to English and Spanish, and they all wish they knew another language. Number 6 is going to be volunteering. This is something that I used to do a lot, either through school or through work when I worked at a nonprofit, but that was many years ago, and since then I haven't really made time to do it. But I think the strategy for me is going to be aiming for 6 times a year. That's on average once every 2 months. And it just seems like it's such a low amount of times that it just seems doable. I think it's important to give back. And aside from that, if volunteering just for whatever reason isn't your thing, it's actually a really great way to network. You meet a diverse group of people from all kinds of backgrounds. You never know who you're going to bump into at one of these things, and you just never know what person's going to open many, many doors for you. So for whatever reason that you do it, I would still suggest you do it. Do it for fun, do it to be helpful, do it to further your network and further your life. I really strongly recommend that. So number 7 is going to be starting a side hustle. And this one actually kind of ties into number 1 for me, and I would suggest it would for most people too. See, a side hustle to me is something that you dedicate less than maybe 10 to 12 hours to a week, and that it's fun. Otherwise, it's basically just a second job. And if that's the case, then just go get a part-time job somewhere. And so ideally, finding a way to monetize your hobby, which is a skill in and of itself, right? Like if you're making whatever, candles for fun, bridging that gap between just making something for fun and turning it into a product that you can sell is a whole different skill. And being able to do that, it's just amazing, right? When you're diversifying your income, it's extra income. So you're hitting your financial goals, your investment goals, right, that we talked about. And at the very least, if you're not like super selling things, you're not putting a lot of time, but you every once in a while are able to make money from your hobby, then that money goes to fuel your hobby as well. So at the very least, you're able to do something fun that you enjoy for free. So I just think it's a win-win. And yeah, of course, there's that potential that you strike a really good opportunity and you're actually able to just turn that hobby into a part-time job or a full-time job. And you know, who wouldn't want to wake up happy to go to work every single day doing something that they really enjoy and that they're really good at? So number 8 is going to be reading more books. So over the years, I've actually bought a lot of books that I found interesting in all different kinds of genres and subjects, but I haven't actually read any of those. And again, I just never made the time to do it. But I'm thinking I don't even have to carve out specific time, like extra time in my day. I just have to replace certain habits that I have. Like for instance, going to the bathroom with my phone instead of sitting there watching videos or a movie or scrolling through like TikTok or Instagram. I could just take my book with me, knock out a couple of pages, and even if I just do 10 to 20 pages a day, if I'm reading, let's say, a small book between 150 to 200 pages, that means in about 10 days, I should be able to knock that book out. That's not even to mention, like, instead of at night staying up for an hour in the bed, scrolling on my phone, I could be busting out that book and just running through it, right? And you can find a lot of studies out there that show how people over the years have declined in how many books that they read, and other studies out there that show just how beneficial reading is for your brain. It stimulates it in a unique way that you just can't replicate by doing other things, whether that's watching a movie or physically doing something. It's just a completely different type of stimulation. So I think it is important, like a healthy diet, for you to be well balanced. Have your active time, have your downtime, have your time where you're engaging in a show or a movie or playing a video game, but also have the time where you sit down and you read something physical. They have shown that there is a difference between reading something on a screen and reading a physical book that isn't blasting light at you. So I would suggest picking a small obtainable goal, for me, that's just 6 books a year. Since I already have a big pile of books waiting for me to read, I'm just gonna start working on it in the order of like the smallest book. Just start out with the thinnest book that I can find and working my way towards the thickest one. I think that's a great way to ease into it. I think if I started out with just a huge book, I might stop like a quarter of the way through, just because I haven't finished something. I feel like it's never ending. So I think finishing something and having that sense of completion would serve as great motivation to just continue with this goal. And honestly, guys, even if you fail your goal and you only read half the amount of books that you were trying to read, for me personally, if I just read 3 books this year and didn't hit that 6 book mark, that's still 3 more books than I read last year, and the year before that, and the year before that one. So it's just all about getting started and sticking to it. So number 9 is gonna be trying a new activity every month. Honestly, I feel like last year, like 2023, I didn't really do anything exciting, like nothing new or major. I just felt like every day was just another day for me. So I want to do something different. I mean, life is too short, it goes by way too fast to just do the same thing every day. So I was thinking at least once a month trying something that I've never tried before. And for me, that's going to be either something sports related or experience related. I've always wanted to play frisbee golf. It always seemed interesting. I never got the time to go and do it, or even regular golf. Like, I feel like I'm not going to be the type to be out there golfing every weekend, but just saying that I did it once in my life would just be great. For me, like, as far as the experiences go, I've actually haven't had like a professional haircut like at a salon before. Like, my mom always cut my hair, then I cut my hair, and then I got married, and then my wife cut my hair for me. So and if you think right now it looks a little funky, it's not anything to do with the haircutting abilities of anybody. I'm just growing my hair out, so I'm kind of in a weird stage right now. But you know, like, I would like to go to a salon this year. I don't know if right now, since I'm trying to grow it out, or heck, maybe right now it's a good time. So if I don't like the haircut, I can just go buzz cut again and let it grow out. But just going to a salon and letting a professional just pick a hairstyle for me, style my hair, just try something that I've never tried before. Or I've met a lot of people that heck haven't even done a puzzle before in their life. Like, just pick a puzzle, do a puzzle, like that one, and frame it, you know, just for the memories, just to say that you did it. It's just all about those new experiences. And hey, you might find something that you actually really enjoyed and you continue to do even outside of that, you know, month. So that's just one of my goals, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun and provide a lot of nuance and excitement to my life. So number 10, the last one, and probably the most important one, and that's keeping a calendar. I think most of us stopped keeping agendas after grade school, but it's honestly a skill that needs to come back. I think it's a great way to stay on track. And for me personally, what that means is I ordered one of those huge calendars, like the big poster board size ones, so that I can put it on the wall here in my office so that I can see it every day. Because for me personally, I've put stuff in my phone calendar. I wrote things in a notepad that I carry with me everywhere in my backpack, but because it's in my backpack or in my phone, out of sight, out of mind, I completely forget that I even wrote something down. So having something big, permanent on the wall that I can see every day is going to be key to me keeping track of the things that I want to do. So that calendar is going to be solely dedicated. So that calendar is going to be solely dedicated to my New Year's resolutions. Nothing else is going to go on that calendar, and I'm going to see it every day. And that's how I'm going to make sure that I carve out time in my schedule and that I respect that time, that I treat it as something important, that if I choose Saturdays to work on my hobby, on these video things, that I'm gonna dedicate that time. And even if that means not be able to make plans for something, or I have to drop existing plans for this, then by all means I will, unless it's something, of course, really important, like someone's wedding. But that just to me seems like the best way to actually keep up with these things, because again, the reason most of us fail our New Year's resolutions year after year and never keep up with it is that we just do not make it a priority. But if we start to, like everything else in our life that we actually do every day, then we can get there. And eventually we're just not going to think anything of it, and we probably won't even have to put on the calendar. Just how you don't have to put on the calendar that you're going to work today. You just know what days you work, what time you need to be there. That's the same principle. And I think after a year of doing this, some of these things should ideally stick. I'm pretty sure that even if we just keep up with 80% of our resolutions and do it in 80% of the way through, that's going to be a huge improvement from last year. At least if you're like me, where after 2 months, I forgot I even had resolutions. So that's going to be it today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And guys, if you found this video helpful at all, or if you've ever driven to the gym after hours just to find out that you forgot your key card and no one's there to let you in and had to go home immediately, give this video a like. Consider subscribing if you would like to see more videos based on health and fitness. And just thank you all for watching.